Georganne Burke is a dual American-Canadian citizen who grew up in Syracuse, New York. She now lives in Ottawa, where she has worked for the Federal Conservative Party and the Ontario Progressive Conservatives. And she just voted for Donald Trump. Good morning.
Good morning.
Why did Donald Trump get your vote?
Well, it actually wasn't a straightforward process for me. I watched all of the Republican candidates over the last almost 2 years. It's a long haul in the United States. I was a Rubio supporter. I believed that he would have been a great presidential candidate, and I actually believe that Hillary Clinton was scared to death of him. They didn't want him to be the candidate because he would have beaten her. But once Donald Trump was selected, I just felt that he would be so much better as a president than Hillary Clinton that I actually made the decision to go with him. As I said, I had to think about it because there are things about him that don't appeal to me, but there are many things that do.
What is it about him or his message that most resonates with you?
I think the very fact that he understands that Washington, to use the phrase that we hear all the time, is broken. It really is. The Democratic Party is completely corrupt, and that's coming from a person who was a lifelong Democrat until 2012. I changed my registration in 2012 from Democrat to Republican. I was not a Republican ever in my life.
What happened in 2012?
I just had reached the end of my patience. One term of Obama, and I said, I can't do this anymore. This party doesn't have any meaning for me. They don't have the same values that I have. They're going in a direction which I completely disagree with, so I can't be a member of that party.
What do you mean? What kind of direction were they going?
Their concerns were not the concerns that I had. I felt that the problems in the United States were about jobs, were about security and safety. Their views in foreign affairs were very concerning. The way they were handling the economy was a disaster. I mean, the growth has been minimal for the past 8 years, but it's all with an eye to keeping people, I believe they've created a victim mentality in the United States for a lot of people, and I think it's destructive. It's destructive to minority communities. It's destructive to new Americans, people who come over as new immigrants to the country. They're not seeing a country which is encouraging them to go out and do things for themselves, to build themselves. It's a country that's all about free stuff now, and I just think it's a disaster. I'll use Donald Trump's term, a disaster, a catastrophe, and he's not completely wrong. He's actually on track. He is saying things, as much as it annoys people, that people are thinking and were afraid to talk about. They were feeling he's voicing the feelings that people had. Long ago, even before I supported him, I said to my son, I said, he is saying what people are thinking and they just aren't willing to say it because they know they're going to be told they're politically incorrect, they're out of line, they're saying terrible things, but that's how people feel. And that's why he's getting the resonance he's gotten.
So if that message of America is broken and something different has to be done to fix it is resonating with you, are you convinced that Donald Trump actually has the plan to fix it? Because he has been really criticized for not digging down concretely and saying what he is actually going to do.
It's interesting that people say that because if you listen to Hillary Clinton talk, she actually does the same thing. She just does it in a more articulate fashion, which is, by the way most politicians operate, having worked with them for the better part of 50 years in 2 countries. I know that that's not different from politician to politician. They rarely get into details about their plans. They always tell you, go to my website. She's done it innumerable times. He's done the same thing. He has detailed plans on his website. He is surrounded by some very top-notch advisors. He has been endorsed by groups who are worried about the same things that I'm worried about, that he said he's worried about. The police, the border security guys, ICE, among others. So basically, I think that what we're talking about here is, no, he's not going to talk for an hour about his detailed plans for defense. He's going to say, this is the overall view that I have. If you want to know the details, go to my website and read it.
You cast your ballot for Trump this week, and that was after 2 televised debates, and notably after this tape of him degrading women was released. What effect did that tape have on you?
I'm going to be very honest. It had zero effect on me. I was not surprised. One of the things that I would say that I disliked about Donald Trump was the fact that I felt that he was rather crude, rather boorish. And I would not have been surprised to find out that he was lewd and obnoxious around women. I can't verify it, I don't know that for a fact, but it doesn't surprise me. The question that I had to, resolve in my own mind was, did that really matter? Well, I don't think it actually does. I think that...
Bragging about sexual assault? That doesn't matter to you as a woman?
That's yet to be proven that he's actually done anything. He was talking. As far as I know, he hasn't done anything.
Two women have come out today.
Right. Well, I guess we're going to see if that's true. But I wouldn't like that. If that was in fact the case, I would be extremely upset about it. I would not be, as a woman, I would not want that to be the case. But I have to be very honest with you. I look back at the history of our presidents in the United States, and all of this indignation, I call it faux indignation, is quite ironic, because we've had not dissimilar situations in the past, and nobody complained about it, nobody said anything about it. And many of these complaints, by the way, are coming from long, long ago, and I think it's going to be difficult to prove at the best. So he may be a changed man too, and I guess where's our Christian spirit? Not that I'm a Christian, but there are people that are out there, waving their arms around. But if he's changed, if he's a different person, if he's grown up in some ways, then maybe we should be a little more forgiving. I don't, people certainly have forgiven Bill Clinton, so.
He's also called for Hillary Clinton to be locked up. He's called Mexicans rapists. He wants to ban Muslims from entering the United States. Is there anything about Donald Trump that makes you uncomfortable?
Yeah, there are things that make me uncomfortable. It's his rhetoric, I think, that probably does make me uncomfortable. But I also know that he actually isn't the one that's been calling for Hillary to be locked up. It's actually the people in his audience who are saying, lock her up. He has said that he would request a special prosecutor to look into the situation, and frankly, he's got plenty of grounds. She should have been indicted. When James Comey got up and made the statement that he made on the day that he made it, I was listening and I was going, oh my God, he's going to indict her. And then he didn't. And I was completely stunned. I think, as most people were. She was probably stunned and relieved. Because, well, probably she wasn't. I'm sure she knew the fix was in. But the point is that there are people that feel that she has done much worse things than people who are currently in jail. And she has not been treated the same way. There seem to be two levels of justice in the United States. One for regular people and one for special people. And she obviously is in that category.
When you say that where are the Christian values, and maybe we can forgive, and maybe he has grown up, don't you want to know that before you vote for him as president? And you have voted for him as president.
Well, okay, so what I'm going to tell you one of the things that actually turned me to vote for him. I was watching the CNN town hall that was, which by the way is unusual for me to watch CNN, but they had a town hall with Donald Trump and his family, his 5 children, his wife, and I just was blown away by his kids. They are extraordinary young people. They're bright, they're articulate, they're courteous. They, being from New York, I have family in New York. I have family that has had interactions through organizations they work with the family. They're charitable, fine young people who are involved in their communities where they live. So what's the common thread between all of those children is their father. And when they talk about their father, you can see the love and respect they have for him, and the way they talk about how he raised them. He told them, when they left for school in the morning, no drugs, no alcohol, no tobacco, don't get in any trouble, because if you do, you're going to come home and there's going to be trouble here. He expected them to be respectful in school, to do what they had to do, and they all turned out to be amazingly successful people.
So let me ask you, how do you square that with they are respectful to him bragging in very vulgar terms about kissing, groping, trying to have sex with women?
Well, I guess that's the question. How do you do that? So what I'm saying to you is that those things were at the minimum 11 years ago, maybe longer than that. Some of them are 30 years ago, almost before his kids were born. I suspect that he was not atypical, somebody in his lifestyle, wild and crazy. If you look back, we had the same situation with many of our leaders. I'm not speaking about Canadian, but American leaders. And I think people can change. I think people can change and can grow up and be better people. I think he has probably seen a lot in the United States during the past 2 years that he's been traveling, a year and a half that he's been traveling, talking to people, meeting with people from religious organizations, from minority communities, from foreign countries, where he's maybe gotten a somewhat different view than he might have gotten from Trump Tower. And he's an intelligent guy. I don't think we should minimize the fact that he's no dummy. He's a smart man. He's a capable guy. He's built his business. Yeah, people say his daddy gave him money. His daddy gave him $1 million and he's turned it into multi-billions of dollars because he's got bold vision. I think he's got leadership qualities. And I'm willing to take that risk because Hillary Clinton, frankly, with all of her smoothed off edges and her relative, compared to him, articulate ways, is completely untrustworthy and a liar.
It's interesting because many people say that supporting Donald Trump is defending the indefensible. What kind of reaction do you get from people here, whether they are colleagues or friends, when you say that you are a Donald Trump supporter?
It's interesting. There's very definitely two schools. I have people who say, good for you, bravo. And I'm surprised sometimes at the people that are supporters. But I also have friends whom I love dearly, who are suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. They are completely insane over the fact that I would support Donald Trump. Some of them have even gone so far as to say, how can an intelligent woman like you do this? And I'm like, are you suggesting I'm not as intelligent as you thought I was? Are you suggesting there's something that's gone awry, that I've lost my mind? They know me, that I don't usually do things without carefully thinking about them. And as I said at the beginning of the interview, this was not something I said from day one. As a matter of fact, I actually didn't support Trump at the beginning. I had to come around to it, but I do think that he's the right guy for the United States at this time.
Georganne, thank you very much for being here today. Really interesting to hear your perspective. I should say we have been trying to find a Republican, a Trump supporter, for ages on this program. None would talk to us, so it's interesting to hear your perspective. Thank you very much for being here.
Pleasure.
It's Georganne Burke. She is a dual American-Canadian citizen who lives in Ottawa, and this past Monday she cast her advance ballot and she voted for Donald Trump.